3, 2, 1, and welcome back to Chasing the Racing, episode 24. And it seems like a hell of a long time ago since our last episode. It's been is it 2 or 3 weeks?
Mate, I'm waiting for you to introduce yourself. I've forgotten your name. Who the fuck are you, young'un?
Sat opposite the tree cutting road
You've
racing
forgotten
legend
yourself, haven't you?
himself.
There's been that much going on, isn't there? We don't know what's going on.
So sat opposite Dom the Bomb.
And across from me is now officially, even though he lied to me at the beginning of all these podcasts, he is now officially a teacher, Chrissy the Rouse.
Spot on.
How are you, young'un? How the devil are you?
I'm spot on, mate. Spot on. We've got a hell of a lot to talk about over the next hour and a bit.
But before we get going, where the fuck are we? And I've got to work on my swear far too much. Christopher, dear boy, where are we? Because we look like a couple of homeless gypsies. You know, it's like we're not going to pay council tax. Budget Max and Paddy here.
We've got a new setup for the podcast. We're actually sat on the grass next to my house in the
currently a
motorhome.
32-degree lean angle. Honestly, I'm about to go through the passenger window here, Chrissy.
We've actually had to put blocks down so our drinks don't slide off the table. But we've set up a little studio in the motorhome, and
I think it's mint.
It's because where we usually record at your lovely sister's house is now flooded.
The place got flooded out.
Bless her.
Absolutely. So obviously, Samantha, I know you'll be listening because obviously you keep an eye on these things. So thank you so much for letting us use your place, and and obviously the technical side of it as well, incredibly switched on. Absolutely, so I can't thank her enough. But obviously, Mother Nature decided to take a shit on her front lawn and obviously flood the place out. So obviously her and the husband there going through, which is a pain in the arse, absolute pain in the arse. But
I'm laughing here because literally, like just before we start recording the podcast, we'll have a quick chat about what we're going to say, like what we're going to go through, and just before we started, you said, Chrissy, I've been having a think, and I'm going to cut right down on the swearing.
2 seconds in.
We're less than 2 minutes in, and you're already on £3. Bless you.
£3. I know it's all for charity, but I tell you what, right, Chrissy. Before we obviously get down to the two posh technical stop giggling, right? Stop giggling. But no, my mum's going to start listening to this.
Right? Is that a game changer for you?
It's a massive game, Chrissy. Right? I treat everyone the same. You know what I mean? Even if Queen Elizabeth came through the camper window here, I'd treat her the exact same as I do you and everyone. But I'll tell you what, mind, when it comes to me parents, I'm a total bitch. I really am. It's obviously the way I'm raised. We're working class lads, and the fact is, you gotta respect especially your parents. I don't back answer me folks. I don't swear in front of me folks. I don't live with me folks or anything. But I tell you what, right? Even when I'm hanging around like near me mum and dad, and if my mates come in and start effing and blind, I'm like, here, watch your tongue. That's me mother. Wind your neck in. I'm proper defensive over it. I do not swear in front of my parents. Like, I do not swear in front of them. So if she starts listening to this, I'll be disowned, I'm telling you.
Do you know what? That's a funny thing that, like, for me when I was growing up, I would never ever swear in front of my mum. And for a long time, the sort of racing was me and my dad going away, like racing around the country and whatever. And it was funny because the sort of language when I was away with my dad and like in the sort of racing paddocks, everyone swears. Even like, I know you're saying you don't swear in front of your parents, but like all my mates and even the parents would swear in front of the kid, and it was just like,
it was a different world.
And then I remember when my mum started coming, and it's like almost a bit awkward because I would never use, like, I wouldn't use that language. But when I know what you're saying, when your mates are swearing their heads off, and it's like, I know what you are. I know what you're saying.
I'm exactly like that because the fact is, you don't, the odd swear word. We've raised a lot of money for charity. Yeah, right. The odd word. Now you've sworn as well. You're not the total angel here, but anyway, like when the odd swear word comes out, it's nothing hostile. You don't use it in a hostile manner. It's literally bad language, isn't it?
Yeah.
But obviously, when me folks are around, I'm just a total like, what? Oh yes, mother, pull up a seat here. Yes, can you move out the way, Toby? Yes, so my mother needs that suit. But no, it's a respect thing. Hey, let me tell you and all the listeners here something I was raised on. Respect is hard earned and easy lost. And that is the truth of it, mind. And when it comes to your parents, mind, let's face it, especially your mother, because there's only one oven you're baked in. Anyone could be your dad. There's a note for everyone. Anyway, back to the professionalism side of it. So if my mother is listening, I'm sorry, Dad, if you are.
Well, I tell you what, before we get going, we've got a couple of sponsors, and with it being a few weeks, we've actually accumulated 3 sponsors this week. So we'll start with the very loyal Incontango Training, a leading finance, risk, treasury, and consultancy company. Sorry, risk and treasury consultancy company. There we go. But more importantly, motorbike racing fans. So big thanks to John and the team at Incontango Training.
Oh, there we go. There we go.
We've also, I went for a haircut the other day at the lovely...
Is that what you call that? Hey, our lovely sponsor there. I do apologise. It's very fashionable.
Griefing the sponsor already, but
that's it.
I tell you what, absolutely mint barber, and I tell you, it's a bit of a winner for me because I used to go to this expensive barbers down at the Metro Centre.
You look like the type, mate.
15, 16 quid a haircut, right?
Excuse me?
And you're waiting for about 2 hours for a haircut, right?
Say that figure again, for a
about
haircut.
15, 16 quid. And
for a bloke's haircut?
Aye.
A bloke, like a bloke's
barber's
haircut.
aye.
A bloke's haircut.
And you're waiting about 2 hours, right? One of the barbers from this shop then set up our own shop in the village I live in, so it's like absolutely perfect. And what makes it better is that she's a massive bike racing fan, and it's all decorated in motorbike racing stuff. So we've got a bit of my memorabilia down there and just loads of bike racing things. So it's called Victory Barbershop. I live in a village, Burnopfield, in County Durham, just outside Newcastle. So it's in Burnopfield, and they've just been nominated finalists for the Barber of the Year in the North East Beauty Awards 2019. They offer a wide range of professional and skillful barbering services, modern and traditional for all ages. To book your appointment, go to victorybarbers.nearcut.com, download the Nearcut app, or hit the book now button on our Facebook page, Victory Barbershop.
How did they vote?
I'm not entirely sure. I think it's to do with reviews and stuff. But
we need to get that link because we've got nearly over 20,000 listeners now. She's going to win this, and I want a free. You'll have to pop in.
They are. I'm not just saying it because they're sponsoring the podcast, but they are brilliant barbers. I really, they do a great service, and they've just updated the technology. So you get an app on your phone called Nearcut, and then you can book your slot. So you never ever wait in the barbers. You just book your time. So, like, on the way at the barbers, I look to see if they've got any appointments and then just book in, and I turn up on the time. It takes 15, 20 minutes to get my hair cut, and I'm out. So it's a brilliant service, and it's much cheaper than...
You are factory, aren't you? You book a haircut. You are.
Book a haircut on my phone.
When I grow up, I want to be Chrissy Rouse. That's the truth of it, I'm telling you.
Shut up, man. And I think you've got a sponsor, pulled in a sponsor for this pod.
Obviously, my sponsor, who's obviously a big fan of the show, and he's actually a very, very talented photographer and a lovely man, very lovely man. It is Isle of Man TT Pics, so that is IOMTTpics.com. He does absolutely anything for you.
I've seen his work, like, it's mint.
I'm always retweeting it, and obviously we retweet it on the Twitter page as well. But he'll do you absolutely anything. He'll do your prints, canvases, those lovely aluminium brush, like it's like brush art, but absolutely class. He does them. He does like desk calendars. He's got them out now as well, which you can see on his website, for the 2020. And he's got his, lovely little sponsor plugs here, and they're perfect for Christmas stocking fillers. Oh yeah, that's nice touch. And
can you buy your images off his website?
Yeah, you can buy absolutely. The thing is,
he's got some corkers of you, and he
he makes me look fast, and that's a very hard thing to do. Let's face it.
Special effects.
That's it. But no, he literally gets right around the circuit, right around. That makes him sound like a slag. No, I'm not. No, obviously, he does. He's done it for years. He not just does that. He does the Manx Grand Prix. Does the Southern. He's a massive like road race fan, and he obviously does short circuits as well.
Yeah, his work's mint, like.
And like he's done a few personal edits for me work. He does like
Photoshop thing.
Well, Photoshop, I'm trying to think what it is. Customer. It's gone. It's totally gone. Anyway, he'll do whatever you want. He's a fantastic lad.
So just get in touch on Twitter or his website.
Definitely on his website at IOMTTpics.com. Thank you very much, mate.
And thanks to everyone who sponsored the podcast so far. I really appreciate the support, and it helps, keep it ticking over. So yeah, spot on. Well, we've got lots.
The prices are going up next year.
We've got lots of topics. Obviously, we haven't had a podcast in a couple of weeks, so lots lots has happened in the world of motorbike racing since then. So we're going to get on to, I'll just get my list. We're going to get on to like a BSB catch-up. Obviously, we've had Cadwell Park and we've got Oulton Park coming up, so we'll have a sort of catch-up on everything BSB.
What we do last time, honestly, the mad thing is...
It was like, just before Cadwell, so it was like...
Just before Cadwell, so we've done the Ulster.
Yeah,
see, like you say, we have these little briefs and you think, what the hell have we talked about? What the...
So we'll have a BSB catch-up, and then second of all, we'll go on to the classic TT Manx Grand Prix, and obviously plenty to talk about from there. And then we'll finish with the British MotoGP race, fantastic race at Silverstone. So we'll talk a little bit about that and all the cracking World Superbikes. Lots of riders changing, lots of teams changing riders, and they've been on a big summer break, but they had a test at Portimao, and obviously the season's coming to a close. So a little bit of crack on that. But first, I will just mention as well before we get going, I put a competition on the Twitter for Where's Piggy, and it was 4 pictures. 4 pictures at the TT course, and we had quite a few guesses. I asked for people to PM because I thought if people tweeted back, obviously anyone would be able to see it,
see the answer from there.
So I thought it would make a better competition if it was a PM competition.
We've got a hell of a
absolutely
entry
loads
list,
of entries, right? How many correct answers?
Mate, I don't even know the answers, so go on, let me have a guess. Never.
Zilch. I think
I was about to say 3, thank God.
The best we got was 3 out of 4.
Never.
So no correct answers, but well, should I run through them, do you think?
Go on then. Obviously it's a picture round, so it's going to be quite hard to describe.
Yeah, if you haven't seen it, check it out on the Twitter, but well, the first one, I think quite a lot of people got that, and that was at Crosby.
Yep.
The second one...
Lovely pub on the right-hand side, broken down by that for a few years.
The second one was a difficult one, and it was actually at Handley's. Now, do you know where Handley's is?
Yep.
I've got no idea.
Wait, you got Cronkyvody 1, 2, then you come down, and then it's like a left. Now, it's a big solid wall when you're going into it.
Right.
It's like, and then you just brush your elbow up against it on the right-hand side on the exit.
Well, we had Handley's, and then the third one was Glenduff. And then the final one was at Alpine. Is that next to Alpine Cottage?
Alpine's there's like a dip. I know that sounds stupid, but there's like a crest. But when the curb drops away, you tip in.
Right.
But even on a big bike, it's like 6 back to 5th and just back to flat chat, like
proper fast.
It's proper naughty, like, and there's just you meet a curb on the exit. You've got it right if you clip the curb. I swear, I mean, like with the back, straight out.
But like I said, nobody actually got all 4 answers, so we'll have to do another competition sometime soon and give people a chance to win.
Guess the Chinese in black and white.
Before we get cracking with the
topics.
Emily.
Got to say thanks to Emily.
Oh, we've just had a Chinese delivered just before we got recording the podcast. So
the
big thanks to the missus.
Here, we'll have to get this on the road, you know.
I know.
Now this is your move. It's mint, man. It's mint.
We'll have to have the podcast on tour and like maybe go to the guest houses and get them in the truck.
Rossi, watch your back, son. We're coming knocking. Anyway,
but I tell you what, before we get on to the discussing the topics, obviously we've had a couple of weeks. So have you been up to much in the few weeks we've had off?
Well, it's a case of obviously I've been away racing, and
obviously we're going
to go into the classic and the Manx Grand Prix and everything revolving about that. But I should very quickly, very 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 quickly mention to round up my week. I got invited down to the Norton Burnout at Donington Hall by Stuart Garner there.
You went there last year, didn't you?
Went there last year, and I took a good friend of mine's 450 super motorbike, Jimmy Britton, and I'm not sure if he listens to this or not, but I know Jimmy Britton, Jimmy Britton Construction lent me his 450. Anyway, going down the back straight, I boiled the caliper and I went over the fence.
Last year?
Last year, nearly literally hit the fence at the bottom, just went woof. I went,
so is that like a race around the manor?
It's literally around like Norton Factory, like in the car park and everything.
So is the curbs and
mate,
lampposts and that?
It's flat out dangerous. It's fantastic. Like even
like a mini road race,
a tiny miniature road race. The curbs, they just put a couple of straw bales and stuff like that. But like last year, they had like James Hillier, they had Lee Johnson, they had, like obviously John McGuinness, who would have to be there again. But obviously with commitments, it wasn't that jam full of, like, shall we say, the road racing side of it, but like lots of British level supermoto lads were there, and I'm going to be very honest, I didn't know many of them. But yeah, no, that's a good valid point, mind, because motorcycling, people label it under one thing. There's that many different disciplines.
Like if I said to you, name like
a speedway racer.
I was just about to say who's the top speedway racer.
Right, yeah, it's Ty Wolfenden. But anyway, but any of them. But but my point is, there's that many different disciplines.
Yeah.
You don't really know.
Who's your third favourite trials racer?
Trials racer. That's how much you know about it. Dougie Lampkin, he's the boy, but he hasn't been racing for years, and then got David Knight at endurance and But anyway,
you're just showing off now.
I'm getting there. But I'm talking about different levels and different classes. But you get so absorbed in your own world. It's like you like me, BSB. I know a little bit about it because it affects roads in a tiny way, but I don't know the depth of it. Yet I know more people at my level, like in road, should I say, like from the bottom level up to the top level, and you just think, you get so absorbed. So when I tipped up here, I was like, who the fuck are you guys? And getting to meet them was like dead interesting. But anyway, I boiled me Jimmy Britton's bike last year, and I saw Richard Cooper, Kyle Ryde, Lee Jackson, and a fair few of them go around this mini bike. But obviously our avid listener and pretty much like coach, sports coach now, is like BR8 Racing. Nathan and him and his wife Kirsty turned up, and they looked after me like a king mind this weekend. Absolutely looked after us. Got his little KTM, and I howled round on that. It was absolutely class.
Was that a KTM 85?
A little KTM 85, and I was 0.4 off some of the lads on the big 450 supermotos. I was battling out with Lee Jackson and stuff around a bloody car park, and Nathan, I love that man, and he properly looked after us, and he was just properly right, we're gonna do this, doing that, running around in all rag tires and essentially a kid's bike. Had a right good time.
Oh, brilliant! And then do you have is there a ball and everything on after?
Honestly, mate, you ever seen Wallace and Gromit? The wrong trousers. The little penguin. That's exactly how I looked. That straight face. Right. If you listen to this now, get your phone out, Google Wallace and Gromit penguin. This blank look of, I don't belong here. That's exactly what was on. That's exactly, mate. I've never. I was like that going. Don't get me wrong. I looked fucking delicious. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, Mama's done a good job here. But I got in this room going, I've never seen so many posh people in my damn life.
Really?
And my accent, they honestly thought I was some Peaky Blinders. Who let the gypsy in? So anyway, it was like a 5-course dinner. Right? We started off with essentially the world's poshest fish fingers. I'm like, why the hell are we having fish fingers? And then the second course blew my mind, mate. Absolutely blew my mind. They gave us toothpaste. Toothpaste. Apparently it's called sorbet. Right? It was a tub of toothpaste.
Is this before your main meal, or is this
this is before this is the bit in between.
I've never heard of that.
There's this bloke sitting next to her looking at us. I'm going, mate, why are they giving me toothpaste? And he's just absolutely bad laughing. I'm going, son, what's going on with this, man? What's going on? All these people.
What was it like?
Wait, it was like toothpaste, man.
Was it like minty?
No, it was like, apparently it was supposed to be raspberry or something. But no. But anyway, I tell you what, absolutely loved the experience, and I can't thank Stuart Garner enough for the invite down. It was definitely an eye-opening experience anyway, and right good crack. But I won't be having sorbet anytime soon, I'm telling you.
Do you know you've just mentioned raspberry?
Raspberry.
That's a funny. As Geordies, I don't know how you pronounce it, but that's one thing that people have took the piss out of me for when I've been away racing. Because anywhere down south, they say raspberries. Raspberries, where we say raspberries, because
this is God's country, son. They're saying it wrong. This is God's country.
Raspberries.
But obviously had an absolute great time. Loved being down there. It's always great to just have an unwind. Pete Aikman was bombing around, John McGuinness, Davey Todd, Storm Stacey, Carl Wright. Some seriously top lads there, and it was just all round, just a right good laugh, mate. Good laugh.
Did Storm have his suit on?
No. To be honest,
he wears a suit at BSB.
Good lad. Hey, bit of class into the sport. There you are. It's about damn right. Right.
But he's a character.
Oh, but it was cracking. Obviously, I can't thank BR8 enough. It was absolutely mint. Great to go down and get dressed up and live like a king for a little. I suppose live like a king. But it was sorbet's new to me. Sorbet's new to me.
Being up any other crack?
Hey, just the odd bit now and then. Back to cutting trees, young.
I was actually down right next to Donington. I was at Donington the same weekend, but I was just doing a bit of testing in the GP track. Because obviously we've got BSB are racing there in a few next month or something.
Hey, you're answering my own question. I was about to ask about your weekend. So right, you were at Donington. So how did that go, son?
Really good. We've got a good bit of testing done. For like a while now, we've had a few ideas of which direction we want to go with the bike, but it's difficult to test things at BSB because you can't really afford to go the wrong direction.
Yeah, there you go flat out.
Exactly, yeah. So it was a great opportunity to be away from BSB and just trial and error with a few sort of ideas, and thoroughly enjoyed it and made some really good progress. Although it was testing for us, it was actually a club race, so it was like proper race. And
they've got the endurance as well, haven't they?
The endurance was good to watch. 6 hours, bloody hell, it's a long race that. But
hold on, did they have a break between it? Or no,
it's 6 hours flat, like straight off.
So when did you get your races in then?
The races on Saturday midday-ish, and then they set the endurance off at 2 o'clock, 2 to 8. So
that's a lot of track time, that.
But good meeting all in all, and I enjoyed myself. And then other than that, I've started my new teaching job this week, as you mentioned earlier.
Officially the sexiest maths teacher in the world.
So that's keeping us on my toes for now. And also, just before, was it last week or the week before? But it was since our last podcast, we had a really good night down at the North Yorkshire Road Racing Supporters Club.
We were away, man. So
it was when you were away. But Colin Edwards was there, who's a fantastic guest, and he was joined by Peter Hickman. So the two of them, absolutely mint crack. Larry Carter took the evening, so the three of them on stage, and it was just really, really good. It was probably the busiest night we've had at the club in years. It was absolutely rammed, and the crack between them was great.
They're good friends as well, though, aren't they? So
Hickman goes out to his do you know how he does the boot camp? He
does good crack.
He does a racer camp at the beginning of each year, just before the race season starts, and Hickman goes out there for that. So yeah, they sort of know each other anyway, and obviously Colin was on his way to the MotoGP, so loads of good crack. Really enjoyed it. But there was a few funny things that happened on the night, so I jotted them down on my phone, so I was thinking, that's a good one for the podcast. The first one was, and it links back to one of our previous guests. They had an auction and they had a signed cap from loads of road racers, and Larry Carter or Hickman was reading out who had signed it, and one of the riders was Forrest Dunn.
Oh yeah, he's been on my podcast.
Colin Edwards' face just dropped and got all confused, and he took the mic and he said, "Motorbike racer called Forrest Gump."
Oh God, if Forrest is listening now, you'll be loving that.
So I was creased. And then another good one was at the club. The committee, there's quite a big committee, and they wanted a committee picture because everyone was there. So one of the people from the club came over to us in the crowd and said, "Chrissy, would you mind just sitting on the door for 2 minutes? We're just all getting a picture outside. And obviously, if anyone comes in, just charge them the money for coming in." So I sat down, and about a minute after sitting there, a guy who works at the facility at the hotel walked in, and he was he looked a bit anxious and on his toes, and he's glancing around the room, and he looked down at me and he said, "Excuse me, mate, is Colin McRae here yet?" and I looked over my shoulder and looked at him, and I said, "I don't think so, mate. He died in 2007.
Never, you're joking, man.
But I think.
What did you say to that?
But I think Colin Edwards is on his way.
Oh, there we go. Then you put him straight. Bloody hell!
And he just had a laugh.
Poor lad. The ever professional Chrissy Rose delivering facts. It's got to be done, man. Got to be done.
Rito, we better get on with the topics, or we'll be sat here all night.
This evening, all night, Chrissy. You know what I mean?
So obviously, first topic for the night, bit of a BSB catch up. So nice and quick about it, but obviously we had Cadwell Park since the last podcast that we did. Firstly, for myself, it was a reasonably good round. I qualified in 5th. I actually missed the first practice because it was going to be a dry weekend, and then it rained for free practice 1, so I didn't bother going out in the wet, and then free practice 2 was cancelled for torrential rain. So the first time I actually rode was qualifying, which made it quite tricky, but managed a reasonable good lap time, 5th on the grid. And then,
was this in the wet or the dry?
In the dry.
All right. Yeah. So really, it didn't.
It's just straight in the qualifying.
You didn't miss out, but sometimes you do because you want to get your head back into a pattern, don't you?
Yeah.
Is that what you feel like you missed?
I know what you're saying, but to be honest, I didn't. I felt like it was fair for everyone. It was a bit of a shit situation for everyone because obviously straight into the qualifying, and it is nice to get a little like your head up the gears, up the speed.
Just to run out on a bike,
but it was what it was. And then the race itself, I finished 4th in the end. Safety car came out, which really helped us because I'd just lost the front 3, and then the safety car bunched us back up. And do you know what? I could smell it, and I made a slight mistake on the last lap. At Cadwell Park, you go through a really fast turn 1 up the hill, and I knew it was the last lap, so I thought if I'm close enough. Tom Neve was in front. I thought if I'm relatively close, I'll do him on the brakes into park because I was really strong there. And known that and thinking to myself, right, I'll get right up his chuff. I ran wide in Charlie's 1, and I just lost probably maybe a couple of tenths,
which is massive in this game.
Yeah. So I wasn't close enough to get him at park. Closed him in the rest of the lap, and then coming up to the hairpin, so second last corner, and to be honest, looking back on it, I think I probably could have slipped up the inside. I was definitely close enough, but it would have been a very, very late sort of lunge, and it could have easily. I could have crashed, he could have crashed, I could have taken him out, and it's one of them where you either go for it, balls out, full commitment, and take the consequences, or
like an Irwin moment.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think the old me would have went for it, and I would have either knocked him off or I would have got a third. But I think I weighed the options up in my head, and I thought to myself, it's better to bring the bike home in 4th, solid championship points and like a good result, than to risk doing anything silly. So
with the unfortunate bad luck you've had, not your fault, just obviously
it's important,
unforeseen mechanical issues at the beginning of the year,
and
new bike, new team problems. No, that's
so yeah, it was all.
I was just forward thinking there, Chris. Very nice.
Just off the podium anyway, but
very professional.
It was a decent weekend. And then in the actual race, and it's the BSB race, Danny Buckerton did a fantastic job. Gino stepped in for Danny Kent on the MV. Did you hear about all that crack?
Right. I've heard different things, and you know how the world's small and the paddock's even smaller. By the time it got to the Isle of Man, where I was sitting at this exact point, he stabbed his way through an orphanage or something like that. I don't know. So explain to me what the crack is. It was something to do with his brother and a knife falling out. Or what's
basically,
the crack?
I think it got recorded as Danny was given a suspended sentence for carrying a knife, and I think what's happened is him and his brother were out debt collecting.
Debt collecting?
Aye. I know.
Danny Kent.
He's probably the least...
A debt collector. He'd be polite at it. I can imagine him being polite. Excuse me, you do owe him a lot of money. Could you possibly, if you could pretty please just hand me the money. I bet he could, I can imagine him be very efficient.
I know, you can just imagine him turning up at some like big drug dealer's house, like, answering the door, like...
Listen up, Treacle. This is the crack, yeah? I'm gonna turn you into a human sieve. Yeah.
Justin Bieber's at the door with this.
Oh my baby.
But anyway, so he's.
Oh God! Good thing we're in a mobile home, Chrissy, because they'd be coming to look for one.
What I think's been reported is. Basically, his brother got into an altercation, totally separate from this whole debt collecting thing. His brother got into an altercation with a 60-odd-year-old bloke in a car park, and this 60-odd-year-old bloke's pinned his brother down. And I think Danny's ran over to like sort of say like to get this bloke off,
which you would.
And I think he didn't get the knife out and yielded at the bloke, but I think as he's like trying to wrestle him off or whatever, the knife's dropped out of his pocket, and he's had this big like not like a eating your fish and chips knife. It's like a proper knife, like a 6-inch big like sort of kitchen knife or whatever.
A kitchen knife.
So obviously someone took a picture and whatever. It's went to court, and he's been given a suspended sentence. He actually turned up at Cadwell Park ready to race, and he didn't tell his team anything. And then it all went all over Facebook and obviously BBC and everything. And then it sort of left his team they had to sack him,
Well,
you can't, for your sponsors and all that type of thing. Your reputation,
can you? You can't
as a professional sportsman. You've got a role as an
ambassador,
an ambassador for the sport, but also a role model for a lot of young boys and girls out there. And in his position, it's totally unacceptable behaviour, and it's just hard to. Life's a funny thing, isn't it? Like 1 minute he's world champion, the last world champion since Barry Sheene, British world champion since Barry Sheene. He's riding the crest of a wave. I remember, when I first started racing, I remember looking at Danny Kent, and at the time he was like the golden balls of British motorcycle racing. He was Red Bull sponsorship. He was racing the Red Bull rookies. He's very good looking. I thought he had everything going, from travelling the world, racing motorbikes. He then went on to be world champion, and you just think everything's going so well. And then in a short period, the beginning of last year, he was Quattararo's teammate in Moto2, and look at how their lives have diverged. Quattararo's looking to be one of the next up and coming stars of the world, and Danny Kent's, out like debt collecting and sacked from a BSB team and out with no ride, getting slated on the internet. It's such a crazy world. But there's two sides to every story. I don't know exactly what went on. Obviously, it's totally unacceptable behaviour. He should definitely, under no circumstances, be carrying a knife and debt collecting. What's he playing at? But he's. I really don't know what to say. Is there a road to redemption? Nobody's perfect. Lots of people make mistakes. Look at Roman Fenati. He could have killed somebody on track, and everyone was saying his Grand Prix career was totally finished after that incident. And then the following year, he's back in the paddock. But at the end of the day, it's not like Danny's on great form. He's riding. His results have been very poor recently. He's got a very bad reputation in the World Championship paddock, and it's not his first. I don't know him personally. I'm not mates with him or whatever.
I've never met the man myself.
He has, I think he's been done for drink driving offences before. I'm pretty sure when he got his first contract in MotoGP, he bought a BMW, like a flash car, and he wrote it off straight away, drink drive, all kinds of things. He just seems to have a habit of making bad choices, bad decisions, and it's a tough world, and the racing world's a very, very tough business, and what happens next?
We'll have to get him on as a guest.
I know, but
we'll have to get him on as a guest. Which prison is he in?
Oh, it's a suspended sentence, so it's you don't have to go. You're not in prison, if you know what I mean.
There's time yet. Don't worry. But no, it's. But that's like you say. That's like anything in life, innit? It's situations can just spin round massively. But it's a bit. We were talking about that at the beginning of the show. It's about respect's hard earned, easy lost, and that is very much much what we were talking about, and how bloody hell, you're trying to be something that you're not, and that's what sometimes can happen. Bloody hell, mate, you've hit.
It's quite deep. It's probably the deepest.
It is, and he's clearly made some bad decisions, and he's where he is, and
do you know there is?
Does he deserve it?
I am a little bit split, because there's in one sense I'm like appalled at his behaviour, and I think in his position he's made lots of I see it in a very negative light.
But you look at it and see the whole world's air being given to him, and then it's almost just been.
Exactly, because he's had the opportunities that I would give anything for. So there's a side to us that thinks, what an idiot. But then there is like a human side to us which thinks, nobody's
driven
perfect.
To that point.
Everyone makes mistakes. And when I'm on say Twitter and looking through, and there's just, if you just type his name in, everyone just slating them and calling them every name under the sun, there is like there is a side to us that thinks to myself, I really hope that this can be like a massive wake up call for him, and somehow he can turn it round,
which would be amazing.
Yeah,
wouldn't it? That'd be a genuine like, holy crap! Remember where he was, and it's.
But you can't make decisions for other people, and that
you can't.
Whatever.
You can get respect back, but it takes a long time to get that. A long time.
Just on that, I did. Saying about like looking through Twitter, there was a couple of funny things. One of them was all the takeaway shops, like the fried chicken places in the country. They were running a program on Twitter. I think it was something to do with the government, but they were like pushing this thing of hashtag knife free, and they were like using examples of people getting stabbed as like cases, and all these chicken shops were like basically go knife free, and it was like to raise awareness of knife crime and stuff. And so like the government had put a thing out about this knife free thing, and someone had retweeted it and said, "Someone tell Danny."
Never. Oh, bloody hell, man.
You're always gonna
get that.
But yeah. It's not funny at the end of the day, is it? Like the whole situation.
That's it. But it's definitely been a talking point anyway.
Yeah,
it's definitely been a talking point.
And since Danny's left that team, Gino got put on last minute. This
is on the MV.
Yeah, did a remarkable job. Because to be honest, it might be a good bike. It's
an underdeveloped bike. From the outside looking in, it is an underdeveloped bike because you don't see it out there all the time.
Yeah, it's how can I put it politely? I wouldn't like if you put Scott Redden on that bike. If he was in the points, I would think he was doing fantastic. To put it politely, like with that team and with the resources that they've got, it's definitely not one of the better funded teams, or that they haven't got all the bells and whistles, basically. So Gino jumped on it, and I think he was actually in the points, which I wouldn't. When he was on a really competitive Suzuki last year, he was out of the points most of the time, so he really surprised us.
So it's saying something about the bike as well as a team.
Yeah, possibly. Possibly. You've got to give credit where credit's due. So yeah, Gino did well, but he hasn't stayed with the team. He's left, and James Ellison's now replaced him. So James Ellison's finishing the season with him after being sacked off Smith's BMW. Yeah. Now, like I say, if you put Scott Redden on that bike, I wouldn't expect any results. So James Ellison going there, he's not been informed this year as
and
it is.
The first time on the bike at...
He'll test it, and then he's going to be at Oulton, Donington and Assen and Brands. So like I say, I'm not expecting much from it. I'll be very impressed. If James Ellison gets a top 10 on that bike, I'll put 50 quid into an extra 50 quid into the charity jar.
Well, I'm stopping swearing after this show, so we're going to have to do something.
We'll have to do something to put.
We're going to compulsive gambling. That's the way to do it from now on, Chrissy. But hey, everyone's heard you that now, man. Everyone's heard you. So
you can hold us to that. He's got plenty of chances.
Hey, we've digressed something rotten there. So what's the next bit?
Big talking point. Obviously, mentioned Buchan did fantastic job. Brooks brilliant. Now the championship actually turned around a little bit, because going into the round, Scott Redden was leading on points and podium credits. He didn't have such a good round. He had obviously it's a difficult track to learn coming from MotoGP tracks to Cadwell Park, but he got taken out. Obviously, I put the video on Twitter, so for people who follow us on Twitter. There's an onboard video of that, but Andy Irwin took him out in race 2, and obviously big commotion after. Andy Irwin also took him out at Silverstone earlier on.
It looked like a scene from Snatch, man.
It could. And the problem with Scott Redden is he broke his leg at the beginning of the year, so that could be the difference between him winning the championship and if
losing his leg.
If he broke his leg again, yeah. So quite a serious incident. Obviously, a mistake on Andy's point. He took responsibility for it straight away. Sorry.
The thing is, at least.
But watching the on-board footage, he's been given a few penalty points. I think it's probably the right decision to try and maybe calm him down a little bit. He's going to have to start the next race from the back of the grid. It was a extremely ambitious lunge. If you watch it back, he comes from miles away. And if you're going to outbreak one of the best riders in the world, you can outbreak him if you're side by side or maybe a couple of foot behind.
But you can't do it from 100 yards back.
You can't do it from that far back. So... great effort. But
I'm surprised he didn't whack him. You know,
it could have been a lot worse.
It could have been a lot worse. I meant Reading whacking him.
Or smacking him after.
Oh, aye, you know what I mean. But the whole world watching it. But even so, you know, just I remember doing my first sidecar race around there, man. My driver, we were spinning off it from that corner, same corner they got binned off at there, Park. Aye. Anyway, we got taken out. We're both spinning in a sidecar. My driver's punching the other driver. I'm in the passenger.
Is that Michael Kirkhoff?
No. This was a lad, Nick Jukes. I've told you about Nick Jukes before. It's my first ever time sidecar bash, and Nick Jukes is braying the other driver, and I'm in the passenger hanging on like Dorothy in a tornado, going, "This is mint crack. This man, full on mental."
Saying, mention Michael Kirkhoff. Actually, he's just finished off me new Chasing the Racing trailer. You seen that on Twitter?
Nice. Very nice. Shout out Kirkhoff, lad. Shout out.
But I think anything else to add to, obviously BSB going into the final round before the showdown, so the Superbike lads have got a triple header at Alton Park.
Busy weekend.
Like we sort of predicted on the last podcast, the sort of people that were expected to do well at Cadwell, so Danny Buchan and Hickman, fantastic. Taz McKenzie riding with a freshly broken wrist, did an amazing job to bring back some points, but obviously he was riding very injured. And then obviously Andy Ewan, who was actually really fighting for that last showdown spot, messed it up a little bit by obviously crashing out. So he really needs, starting from the next race from the back of the grid as well, he needs a good Alton Park. So it's the same.
He's got three
riders.
To give it a go.
Same riders to have a go. You've got Tara McKenzie. Danny Buchan's pretty safe now. If he's not, I'm not sure if he's mathematically safe, but he is safe. So we've got Taron McKenzie, Andy Ewan, Forres, Hickman, and Christy and Dom sort of fighting for them last few spots. Yeah, so looking forward to Alton Park, and I think that sort of rounds up all my Superbike crack. Also when I was at Donington the other day, Taylor McKenzie was there testing the new BMW. So for the last few rounds of the championship, he's going to be transferring over to the new, the one Hickman, and that's been on this year. The new BMW, so be interesting to sort of compare how he goes on, because obviously he's been very competitive on the old Gen 3 model. It'll be interesting to see how he transfers over to the new bike. Difficult task, that changing bikes at this late stage in the season, but obviously he's behind Cooper. I think he's about 35 points behind Cooper, so he's got to try something, and he'll have a good go, I'm sure. Looked pretty fast in testing, and he seemed comfortable, so interesting to see how that goes.
Oh, there we are, son. There we are.
Right, now over to our main topic, which is the classic TT
and the
Manx Grand Prix.
There we are.
So you were over there for the 2 weeks. Start us off right at the beginning. What bikes were you riding over there?
We would have done well. I was actually going to enter the canoe class because it was exactly like exactly like the TT, mate. And we've just been absolutely hammered by the weather yet again. And majority of the classic TT now is made up of the TT grid. So we were very lucky in the situation that we already gained laps. Not many laps at the TT, but we already had that head start. So my heart absolutely bleeds for the Manx Grand Prix lads. You know, and what I mean by that is because they've got to pay an entry because it's a Manx Grand Prix club, and yes, like the TT is government funded, so we get a free entry at the TT as well as the classic TT. But the Manx Grand Prix lads have got to pay their entry like any club meeting. And someone was telling me it was 440 quid. Maybe wrong on that, but it's 400 plus quid for one class. For one bike, one class. So obviously you can enter 600 in both the junior and the senior. But that's a lot of money for waiting round. And for
then you think of the travelling costs, the tyres, fuel, time off work. It's a expensive all together, isn't it?
It really is, but it just shows why people go just for the sheer absolute love of it. But it's no, as far as we'll go from the Manx Grand Prix. We'll talk about them. I tell you what, I'm going to take that back again. We'll talk about the classic TT, and we'll quickly talk about the results. When we'll start off with the senior, and John McGuinness. Needless to say, just turned up, did the business. Like he normally does. The lad keeps coming back like that rash you can't tell his wife about. And Rebecca, if you are listening, I am only joking, dear. I am only joking. But no, as far as the results are concerned, Chrissy, obviously it was John McGuinness on the pattern, followed by Benetti on a pattern, and then Jamie Coward did an absolutely outstanding job on that British bike, single cylinder 2-valve. And like I said, Jamie Coward was knocking on the doors this year. He's got the actual outright lap record on a single. And you think the pedigree over the years that have gone there, he's done an amazing job yet again, and he's had an amazing season. And to wrap it up like that was absolutely brilliant. Obviously the 350, which we'll get into. But let me just quickly touch base. Let's just quickly touch base on the the patterns. They are the superior bike. They really are.
Well, that's Benetti's first go on the 500, and
that's what I mean. He's done a fantastic job of pattern all season. He got his first win at the Northwest 200.
It was a great race, that, wasn't it?
But it was fantastic, man. Obviously, he took Jamie took him to the line again. But the patterns are without a doubt the most reliable and fastest bike out there. So, but don't get me wrong, he's got to put that.
What sort of cheddar are they?
Gee, and I guess I've heard rumours floating around the paddock, which is obviously fact if it's a rumour. No, I've heard that you're knocking on the door at 80 grand. 80 grand.
I love a lot of money in it.
That's a lot of cheddar, young'un. That's a lot of cheddar. But no, then we'll go into the next set of results, which is we'll go into the RST. One of our sponsor, quick little plug. The RST Superbike race, and Davo Johnson, that mad Australian, got his first maiden TT victory around there. Obviously at the TT on the Honda, on a stock Honda. Bear in mind, Honda are coming back, Chrissy. What do you make of that?
As in with the new V4?
No. He turned up on. Is that what the new model is? The one that spat John McGuinness off and nearly killed Guy Martin?
They're bringing out the new bike next year. So there's quite a lot of talk in the press about. I think Bautista's going to be on one in World Superbikes.
Right.
We've spoken about saying that sort of Honda at one time. Honda dominated everything, and then
it was the reliable Honda, Chrissy.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to win, you had to be on a Honda.
And in Superbikes, they've kind of, especially sort of World Superbikes, you could say British Superbikes, other manufacturers have made more of a conscious effort, like Kawasaki, etc., where I think Honda are possibly looking to raise the game a little bit, and it'll be interesting to see how, because like you say, the Honda, although it might not be the out-and-out fastest bike.
Well, saying that, Conor Cummins did 202 at the Ulster Grand Prix on one.
To be fair.
So they're sneaking back under the radar, I think.
I was going to say, I think in terms of the chassis, and especially for the roads, so the road circuits, TT, it has always probably been that,
but they've just kept quiet when you think of the domination of BMW and Kawasaki. But like I say, I'm digressing from the results here. But Davo Johnson got the win, and I'm trying to think who was in second. It was Derek Shields. He got his first podium around the mountain course, and he's been riding absolutely brilliant. He did a great job on the 500.
Do you know when you talk about the classic superbike, what's the cut off for the age?
The cut off age is 1992.
Right, okay.
But the mad thing is, so I would have bought them out to 850s, man. So It's not actually a 750 class. And then,
what sort of lap times are they doing?
Like a really strong lap time around there, so 1:24, 25.
Bloody hell.
When you think of really the chassis, you can't change the chassis. You can obviously play with the engines, get a few more brake horsepower, and the flexing the rules a bit as far as you can put quick shifters on for safety and them little things. So the bikes are considerably better than they were because of outside technology.
Yeah.
But in essence, they are really the same bike or a replica of the original design. But to bang around at those speeds on those things is because when you think of the weight of the bloody things, man, Chrissy, man, that honestly, I've gone out with skinnier birds than those things. I'm telling you. But no, so Davo Johnson did an amazing job, and James Hillier got on the podium as well. But then there was a few lads dropping out. That's the thing about classic racing is you need to finish. Finish first, and that's it. Michael Dunlop was leading it. He was leading it by a country mile, but ran out of bloody fuel, man.
Oh, God.
You know what I mean? So he would have been an upset lad, wouldn't he?
Can you remember when we had Zoe Byrne on the podcast from UK Club Sport? I think it was.
Everyone loves UK Club Sport.
It was a while ago, but we were talking about Hillier Watch. Like, what does Hillier do between things? It has actually developed in the last edition of the magazine. They've sort of started it off. So
which is out now. Get it bought.
Yeah. If anyone sees James Hillier anywhere other than a racetrack. So just anything, you know, if he's on a train or.
But you see, that was the whole point of it, because you don't see him on a racetrack. You don't see him out there. He just tips up to the TT and the classic TT, then goes home. It's a bit like, what's he doing with his time, man? What's he doing with his time? So, like you say, if you spot him on a train, go get a selfie with him or something like that, and just post it to UK Club Sport. You'll be in the magazine.
And speaking of the last podcast, we were talking about Bruce Anstey coming back. And what a return.
Almighty by Bruce Almighty.
Kind of took them a massive, it was a huge achievement, after what he's been through, to come back and to see him.
It was literally, you throw these words around far too often in motorsport and life in general, but it truly was amazing. Mm-hmm. When he crossed the line, he just totally wiped the floor with everyone. Absolutely wiped the floor. And to come back from his, cancer, not once, but he's come several times, and just keeps himself to himself. But he tipped up, and generally a lovely, lovely man, without a doubt. And he just crossed the line. Everyone was up on their feet, and it was just so well deserved. And you think, when life's kicking you in the nuts, he's been hit with a sledgehammer in the family jewels several times, and he still gets up and goes races around the world's best course because he loves it. He's an ambassador for the sport. Absolutely, and obviously to get a win was brilliant. And Davy Todd got second. This is the Dunlop lightweight race in the 252-stroke class.
So they were both riding for Padgetts.
Yeah. So on the Padgett spikes, but Padgetts, needless to say, they're the best bikes out there. And I was speaking to Davy Todd, man, and he was telling me his bike was 105 brake horsepower in a 252-stroke. You know what I mean? It's just mind blowing when you think of the weight. And it was some absolutely cracking racing. I was actually Chrissy, I became a man. I've become a man. I did my first ever 2-stroke race, young'un.
Oh, brilliant. I seen the pictures of it was John Chapman's, wasn't it?
Oh, I nearly roofed his RS 250. Anyway, I just came over Balacry, right? Over and literally the back wheel touched, power band kicked in, right, and nearly roofed her. Now, John is more laid back than deflated Lilo, like we discussed beforehand and that. But he is generally an amazing person, and I thought, I came over this drum thinking, oh, please, someone not get a photo of that, because I'll get bollocked for this. And he was like, that's mint crack, man, that's mint crack. He thought,
what sort of money is that bike? Just out of interest.
Someone was telling me you can get one of those for it'd be just shy of 50 grand, like a proper done up, like all singing 105 brake horsepower one. But mine, well, thanks to Dan Sale, who's come back from injury, he did an amazing job with the team, John Chapman's team, because his knowledge was there, and they worked on the bikes together, and he got mine up to 80 brake horsepower, which is, when you look at the rest of the field, you need a good solid knowledge behind the bikes to get the ponies out of them. But I was sitting fourth, and I almost took third place off Locker. I closed him in from like a 30-second gap, but I got up to 4 seconds behind him, and I nearly had third. But the lad who did come third, the new kid on the block, the lad who just absolutely he's just one of them names that have just gone, like, just appeared on the scene out of nowhere. And every year, every team, every event gets one of these lads, the star of the future. And this James Hind, that's his name, absolutely, he is a star of the future. And you know why he's a star of the future, Chrissy? Have a guess.
Go on.
I tried to get him on the show and he pied us off. He's obviously far too good for us, And the best thing is, I'm only jesting. He's obviously got a fair few things on his plate, and he said, "Look, big fan of the show. So if you are listening, you're a dick because you're not on the show." No. But obviously James Hyde did an amazing job. He got caught in pit lane. The fuel cap wouldn't come off, so he got held back in the pit lane. Then he got a 30-second penalty. His second time at the Manx. He's only 19. When you hear him, he's just got like an old head on wide shoulder. He just doesn't sound his age. And you look at him and go, bloody hell, how old are you, son? Where's your mum? But he generally is. And with his attitude, approaching the Manx his second year round. What? Stop giggling.
You said an old head on wide shoulders.
Oh, well, I'm an idiot. We all know I'm an idiot. Anyway, you know what I was getting at, you dickhead. James, we're loving this guy. He's sticking his fingers up going, Billy. But all seriousness, man. And, if he's taken that approach now, early in his career, he's got a big future. And I think, I've never met him. And that's why I was really excited to get him on the show, to find out, where have you come from? Who's your back and who's your heroes? Where's your ambition lie? And then, you lie back and you think, last year, the new kid on the block was Davy Todd. we had him on the show. He's been racing a bike. He's been on a bike since he was 3. He's been racing since he was 6. British supermoto champion. Blah blah. And then when he appeared, people think he just appeared out of thin air.
Mm-hmm.
So where does James come from? Because you don't like. My theory, talent. You just don't get that good overnight.
Mm-hmm.
He's obviously got natural ability, natural talent. But what's your opinion on it, Chrissy? Because talent is. Someone's a very BR8. We're having a good chat about this, and it's a bit like talent never takes you all the way.
Mm-hmm.
You need skill behind that, and it's a bit like I'm dead curious what your take is on it.
I mean, as a sport, motorcycle racing is, it's such a tough industry to break through, and funnily enough, I read a really good book not so long ago called Bounce by Matthew Side, and that's all about it. The book's called The Myth of Talent, and it's he sort of talks about how it's a lot to do with purposeful practice and sort of like 10,000 hours of purposeful practice to become an expert in something, and the sort of dangers about praising kids for being talented. But obviously, like you say, that you do get these you do get people now and again that come along and they're fantastic. And obviously, was it James Hines' first time at the island?
No, it's his second time.
Second time.
And that shows his maturity.
Mm-hmm.
Because he hasn't just gone out straight out the gate and gone whoop, like a lot of people have, and and if he keeps going with this attitude and with this no pressure attitude going, he's got years ahead of him. It's like, I keep looking up to people like Jamie Coward and stuff, and you've got to build you've got to build into it. But the lad's got talent, we've all got talent, but. Yeah, what he's done is brilliant, and if he keeps going with that momentum, with no pressure and overthinking it, he's going to go far. And when you initially look at him, he looks like a genuine bloke. You speak to some of these people, and they're just like, they think they're God's gift, man. But from the initial, just look at him, from your gut feeling, never judge a book by its cover. But in the same breath, you look at him and think, I keep an eye on. Keep your ears open and keep your eyes on the papers, because that lad's a star of the future in the road scene.
I think what makes bike racing so different from lots of other sports and lots of other skills is the fact that, like, say if you're playing tennis or football or cricket, and you practicing, making little mistakes, but you're learning from your mistakes and you're getting better. Where obviously to improve on a motorcycle, you're coming out of your comfort zone ever so slightly, and sometimes you make mistakes, sometimes you have little crashes, whatever. But what's different about motorcycle racing is you kind of have to push yourself to the limit to improve, but the consequences of crossing that limit can be catastrophic. And when you think of something like table tennis, you might be practicing a shot for ages, and every time you're getting it wrong, it sort of doesn't matter. You might be losing points, but the consequences to you physically and financially are
a little bit different.
Are very different. Where bike racing, you've kind of like, for instance, if you rode on a track day at 60%, you could do that for.
If you think that 60% is your 100%. You're never going to improve. Oh yeah, because if you think you're riding around, and it's that old saying goes, riding, what is it? Train hard, fight easy. Is that what you're saying? Really, it's a bit.
Well, in order to improve, you've got to push to your limits, and that's actually why I think maybe endurance racing isn't such a good idea for riders like ourselves who are trying to improve to be fast. Because, like, for example, a few years ago, I had a lot of time over in Almeria down in southern Spain, and
like you do.
It was like after I finished school and before I started university, and I got a job working out there. So I had a bike out there, I had my van, I was living out there, and I was out on track all the time. Like, pretty much, like, whenever I wanted to be, I could just go out on track. And I did like a full winter basically on track all the time, practicing. But I was riding around it. I wasn't going slow. I was like lap times at Almeria. I was probably doing like 144s ish, and I did that all winter. And it came to pre-season testing BSB, and I thought myself, I've had this full winter on my bike, And like I was going into that season like I'd been training ridiculously hard. I was in the best mindset I possibly could have, and I thought I've had all this testing and practice, and it was probably the worst season of bike racing I ever had.
Really?
I turned up to pre-season testing. My mate my teammate that year, my teammate was Jordan Gilbert that year. He'd been at work all winter. I'd been practicing.
I like him already.
And he turned up and he was quicker than us for the first test. And that's my point. If you're practicing,
if you practice bad practice.
Yeah. If you're just riding round, like you've said about riding on the roads, if you're just riding round and you're not trying to improve, then you sort of
you're pissing in the wind.
Yeah, you're learning how to ride like averagey, really, aren't you?
Aye.
Where every time I go out on my bike, I'm like minimum 80%, and like I'm sort of, I mean, on the short circuit game, you're kind of willing to
push that harder, because we've talked about this, and it's the same thing with like what we're just talking about, and we've repeated these, kind of gone around the same subject a few times. It's like the Dean Harrison situation, like, and Dean and Peter Hickman. If they're out pushing all the time, and it's becoming second nature to them, and that's what we're discussing, aren't we?
Mm-hmm.
And it's.
But yeah, like I say, he's had back to James Hind. He's had a superb, first 2 years, and like you say, he's stealing all the headlines at the moment.
Definitely,
and, rightly so. Was it lap record? Did he break the lap record?
He got the lap record in the junior, and then broke down, unfortunately. So he would have had a good win. Nathan Harrison took that win, followed by. Oh my God! I need to do my homework more. We can't get any signal in this place.
Andy Fisher was up there, wasn't he?
And yes,
Fisher,
I
think was he about third or fourth or something?
Yeah, they're going to kill us. They're going to kill us. We're going to have to put
shout
this
out
on.
Andy anyway.
Oh yeah, shout out to the lot of them. So it's but then that James Hunt, he won the lightweight races, and then obviously another Patton was in second. He was on his own 2-stroke, but no, the really start, like the star of the show. Obviously, James Hind's brand new on the scene, but the Bruce Hansi, and James would agree with that, and so would Davey Todd, and so would John McGuinness. That the whole world is loving the Bruce Hansi situation, and it's absolutely great to see him back, and long may that last.
Absolutely.
Without a doubt.
Just before we move on to the Manx, obviously you were out on the 350 as well.
I was just about to say, I haven't mentioned that. We haven't mentioned the main thing. Obviously, Jamie Coward got his first TT mountain course win, and it meant the absolute world to him. It really did, and it was just great to see him. It's like, have you ever seen a Viking cry? I have, and it was like, Jamie. No, I'm joking. He's one of my best mates. I could say that, but no, he wasn't blubbering like a chit flick. He was just a couple of little rolls of tears coming down the edge of his face there.
You could hear how emotional he was on his interviews,
and he's wanted it so long, and we all want the same dream, Chrissy, and we want to win at the highest level we compete at.
Mm-hmm.
And absolutely over the moon for him. But to stand, to get another podium at the world's hardest road race is absolutely brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely brilliant. But
it sounded like quite an eventful race anyway, with obviously Lee Johnson started off quite strong, but retired. Was it on the second lap or something?
Second lap at the gooseneck. So we don't know exactly what's because he was my teammate. He was on the other 350 for Davies Motorsport, and his bike was running absolutely crisp as fuck, to be fair. But unfortunately, he was leading comfortably, a fair chunk ahead, but something packed in, blessed.
Well, I was actually listening to the race on the radio, and obviously they go around to the different points, and coming out of Ramsey Hairpin, your bike sounded a little bit like a little. Did you have some sort of issue? It didn't sound like it was pulling very clean.
Mate, it wouldn't pull the skin off a rice pudding. You know what I mean? Like, I rode me absolute heart out, son. I absolutely rode me heart out. And initially from the word go, because in practice we had one of our exhaust pipes crack and had fit different exhausts and everything. The carburation, it must have been something like that, because it wasn't the same bike I was on last year, and like I say, to finish podium on that, I'm over the moon, but it wasn't quite running right. It didn't feel as quick.
I had a look at the speed traps at Sulby as well, and I think you're about 8 mile an hour down on what Jamie was, and it was as much as 10 mile an hour down on I can't remember if it was Rutter or somebody else, but it was it looked like and 2 or 3 mile an hour around there down a straight is massive. So like it being like 8 8-9 mile an hour is absolutely massive, like, huge in it.
That's it, you know. And now I I could sit here, bicker and whinge and everything like that, but you know, just to finish on the podium. But the bike suffered some mechanical gremlins, have come up and kicked me in the teeth. But it's that's racing, though, isn't it? You know, you can't have it your own way all the time.
That's it.
But at first I was really gutted. I'm thinking, was it me? Was it this? Was it that? And then I saw the same figures as you did on the internet there, and it was just like, I was gutted. Not only for me, but for the team.
Yeah.
I think the amount of work that I put in, but you've got, you know, it's not just the rider out there; it's the whole team and everything like that. And you can run in the look, Chrissy. You're beginning your season. You know what I mean? You're capable of winning, and I'm not the most confident lad on track, but
you knew that.
I've won it once, and I could have done it again. I'd like to think I can do it again, but this year wasn't our year.
Yeah,
but you know, it's but but being genuinely sick, I'm actually over the moon for Jamie. You know, and I almost had him rut the twat till Jamie towed him over the fucking mountain.
Well, I was just
cheers,
about to
Jamie.
say, were you getting good pit boards? Because I think it was on the last lap, you had quite a distance over Rutter, and then at the first checkpoint, it was like 6 seconds out of you. Then another like 5 or 6 seconds. So like we kind of knew that he was going to overtake you on the mountain, but when you actually went over the line, it was like 0.3 in it.
I got one coming up. The bike was degrading. You know, it was just getting slower and slower and slower. I was going through sections where absolutely flat stick going. No, just even then that wasn't quick. And then I saw the board, and I just came over the mountain. Someone went, "You're a dick," on one board. The other one was "pull your finger out," and then the third one was, "Right, you've got a second. Like, you're a second behind." I'm like, "Oh my giddy aunt," and I just went through corners. Like, I mean, on a little 350, you know, built in 1970 bollocks or whatever it was, right? I'm literally on the nose going in, thinking I'm you, like that, just whoa, just riding like mad. And no, but like I say, to finish third is absolutely amazing. And obviously after that, the unfortunate luck that any team can get, you know what I mean? And Davies, unfortunately, have been touched with a shit stick, beaten to death with a shit stick. So to get a podium for them is brilliant. Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
Well done, and like I said, yeah, exactly that, podium to podium, isn't it? And before we move on to talking about the Manx, obviously it would only be sort of fitting to mention the passing of Chris Swallow. Obviously that happened in the first week, didn't it?
No, that happened in the senior race. So that unfortunately, Chris set off 10 seconds behind me. And it was I actually broke down on the 500, and yeah, it was quite surreal to come home and find out. Now I'm not going to sit here and pretend I knew Chris, and you know, I've bumped into his dad, raced against his dad a few times. I know he lost his Bill lost his son, and Chris lost his brother up at his fortune. So it's such a well thought of family. Especially Chris, you know, he just rides those classic bikes so strong, and we don't know exactly what's happened, but he lost his life at Ballaugh Bridge, and no, obviously it goes without saying, Chrissy, you know, from both you and me, and really, quite frankly, that everyone in the motorcycle community, you know, thoughts and prayers go out there. Chris Swallow and the family, without a doubt.
Yeah, I'll obviously second that, and. We had a bit of a scare as well in the first week with a family member of yours.
Oh God, you had to bring this up, didn't
giving
you?
us all a bit of a scare. Tell us about how's your dad doing firstly, and tell us about his injuries.
Oh man, you know, he's gonna kill me for saying this. He's gonna absolutely kill me for saying this. But my old man, God love him, is 61-year-old. Now, as a gentleman, you should never give another man's age. But my dad was involved in an accident at the Black Hut. Now, if you don't know where the Black Hut is on the Isle of Man, if you've never heard of the Black Hut, if you've never seen or ever intend on going, all you need to know is it's around about 120 mile an hour indoor wall, mind. And my father contested himself to think, I tell you what, that wall is a pile of soft shite. I'm going to go flying into it. No. My dad came off at the Black Hut. He sustained a serious break to his right femur, missing round about 4 inches, and that's probably man sizes, so it's realistically probably only 2 inches, you know. And left arm, hand, and took a severe knock to the head. Now, speaking to everyone who was racing with him, it was a mechanical failure. Nothing to do with bikes or the bike build, but it possibly engine seizure. But obviously, my dad, who is, this sport is taken the best, and it's a realistic side of it. The dangers of it, the Swallow family are going through that, and I'm so lucky. To still my dad to be here, and still giving me shit about cutting the grass while I'm doing podcasts with you. But while we're on the discussion of my dad, he can't thank enough to the medical staff who actually saved his leg. The air ambulance, because his leg was such in a bad state. Now, when you miss that much of your femur, the muscles contract back in, and that's where the permanent damage sets in. So the air ambulance team immediately identified the injury and just put his leg in a splint and stretched it out with weights to stop muscle deterioration. With permanent muscle damage. And obviously all the marshals, every single one of you around there, because throughout the Manx and the Class D, they were struggling for marshals, and I've been very lucky that I've had some of the best marshals up there looking after me old man. But that happened early on in practice week, and I was out in John's 250 first time on it. I pulled in for I set off down the road with my dad, and I watched him piss off in the distance on this big 750 superbike. I was absolutely howling after him, like, come back, you twisted old goat. And he shot off into the distance, and I pulled in for tape, and I got red flagged at Ramsey hairpin. Pulled in, and now my mum doesn't let us go racing without me phone or a tenner. Now you're wondering why the tenner. She says, if you break down at the pub, son, you can buy someone else a pint instead of you getting one. I'm like, all right, well, then no bother. But obviously I broke down, and I rang my mum first. And I said, Mum, I'm all right, because my mum, that mobile phone's a crappy little Nokia, son, and it's got 3 numbers. And in this order, this is how it goes. It's got me mum, who I ring first. Ambulance, Jesus. That is exactly the order, right? I'm telling you. She goes, I don't give a shite who you ring me first. So anyway, I'm going. So, rang me mum, and my mum's like, I said, where's me dad? Like, you just do, because both me and him racing around the same circuit. It was like, Mum, I broke down Ramsey, where's me dad? Right, he hasn't rang in yet. 10 minutes goes by, 20 minutes goes by, and I'm back on the phone. But at this point, I'm trying to ring me dad, because I know he's got his phone on him. We've got one rule as Herberts, is go out with your phone. He's not picking up. And I'm going, he's having the crack about summit. He's found another forest on the top of the hill talking about Corsican pine, just anything to do with timber. The panic, and thinking, all right, no, it'll be fine. Rang me mum. Mum's like, have you heard from your dad? And I just went, nah, it's on him, man, it's on him. Anyway, so travelling marshal comes back up the hill. You join the back of the queue, and you look through the queue going, and I know my dad was ahead of us, but bearing in mind I set up at the same time, I'm thinking he's well past the mountain box, well past it. And then obviously coming through the corner, my dad wasn't there, but I could see the only thing I could recognise of the bike was the number plate.
Oh man,
like number 55 there. And I'm thinking, and that was the longest ride home I've ever had, mind.
I bet.
Because I'm thinking, you can't shoot off, and I was like, just get me back. And then I found myself rolling off again, going, do I want to go home? I must had, I'm trying to think, it's probably 16 mile left. Thinking, get back, don't get back. And that was surreal. And then, I've been in this game, my whole life, with my dad. And when it's serious, and I come in, there's my sister and my family there, and instantly I must have been around about 500 yards back, just coming up the return pit lane. And even then I came out with the brow of the hill thing and looked at my mum, and I knew he was alive, but I didn't know what state. And you can taste it in the air, man, when you know it's bad. Obviously, road to the hospital. There's my dad just looking up as he's got 4 years of Glastonbury flowing through his veins, like you silly twat. But no, I can't thank everyone enough for all the kind messages. But he's still sucking in there and farting out the other, Chrissy. That's the main thing.
Good.
That's the main thing.
Excellent. Well, I'm
silly goat.
obviously glad to hear it, and send him my best wishes. Going on to the Manx, obviously you've mentioned James Hine. Is there anything else that, over that sort of second week, anything else that we haven't mentioned?
Well, shite weather, really shite weather. But honestly, I'm so sorry. I've completely. Where we are in your little camper van, we haven't got any signal. I should have been more prepared, and I haven't got any results from everyone else. I'm absolutely devastated. So I'm so sorry to you, Manx lads. Obviously, there was some absolutely cracking racing, especially with like Nave and Smith. Oh my God! Honestly, the names.
Sarah Boyce had another crash, didn't she?
She had another crash, bless her.
I think, yeah. She crashed at Ulster, didn't she?
Is she not getting rattled at home or something? Sean, pull your pants up. Oh, I can say that, mine. I can say that. Sarah, I know Sarah really well, right? I'm only. She's. Oh, what the hell's happened this time, bless her? No, she finised, didn't she?
I'm sure.
No. Surprise presentation. I think she was like first single home in the lightweight race.
Well, I seen a thing on Facebook, and I'm sure it said Sarah had crashed, but she might have been talking about the Ulster.
That Ulster, I hope so. But rattled twice in 1 week. Good girl. There you go. But no. Honestly, I'm so sorry. The names have totally gone from us. That is absolute. Parsons, man, Steve Parsons. He brought speed in pit lanes, breaking down. It was all kicking off. He was over 120 mile an hour. So the pace is picking up massively at the Manx as well, and it's coming on leaps and bounds.
Was there any newcomers that you noticed this year that you maybe tipping for the future?
Obviously, like you say, that everyone's just targeting it on James Hines, and it's if you are listening, son, you should have been on the show. But no, he's very much a star for the future. He really is. But as far as everyone else, there was a local lad, a Hexham lad, Mark Kirkby, right? He won the newcomers race in the Super Twins by 5 minutes. 5 minutes, man. He won it 5 minutes. He was sitting there chatting to Kinley for 5 minutes, gone, we'll have to wait and find out who's in second. You think that's he's brilliant. He had some. I'm going to be very blunt because we've got to be blunt in this game. There were decent lap times, but nothing like holy shit. He's banging on the doors 120 mile an hour his first year on a Super Twin. But no, God, I'm going to get slated for not remembering all these results for the Manx.
With him being from the same sort of town as you, have you given him any sort of guidance or help or anything?
No. Nah. Well, the thing, because we're such a weird community of people, like,
what, people from Hexham or bike races?
Right, good swimmers with the web feet. Oh God, I'm going to get kicked out. Good thing I don't live there anymore.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll move on to, did you get to see the MotoGP race at Silverstone, British Grand Prix?
I've been busy. I've been busy. No, it's not like I haven't watched it. Well, I haven't watched it. That's the truth of it.
Have you seen any highlights, or did you see the last lap?
No.
Well, you missed a treat of a race, and
after this season, because this is the final episode of these series.
Series
we have no
2.
construct of this bloody thing anyway. But I'm gonna have to do some serious homework for the next one. But let one more. I'm so sorry to the Manx people. I'm promising you now, I'm getting them results in next time.
Right.
Anyway, sorry. You were saying. So.
Yeah. The MotoGP race, British Grand Prix at Silverstone. Race came down to Marquez versus Rins at the last
Suzuki
lap.
rider,
yeah, on the Suzuki with the hair, and at the same time, Vinales was closing in from. He was third, and he was closing in. Rossi was fourth, but going on to the last lap, there's the final corner is a fast right-hander on. Yeah, I think it's fifth gear, almost flat. Fantastic corner, and as the tyres start to go off, you start sliding around like power sliding. It's a brilliant corner. Anyway, last lap, Alex Rins tries to go around the outside of Marquez, and he goes over the curb and onto the green, and it's like, bloody hell, what's he doing? And then follows him for the full lap, going into the final complex. Marquez was mega strong. Rins was right on his tail, and it looked like Marquez had blocked him. Looked like Marquez had it in the bag, right? And then going round the last corner, which is a flat right, Marquez, as he started to drift out, Rins just picked it up and drove underneath him and pipped him to the line.
But you're joking.
It was one of those where
is that Suzuki power? Is Suzuki doing something different, or?
I don't know. It looked like he had superior grip, but I'm not sure. Absolutely amazing move. At the time as well, I thought to myself, Rins has dummied him on the second last lap so that Marquez thinks he's going to go around the outside of him. So Marquez went wide, and then he's done him underneath. And I thought that's a tactical genius to be thinking that at that level. But then after the race, he got interviewed, and it was
just fluke.
He thought the lap before was the final lap, So he thought it was the last lap when he would try to go around the outside of him. So at least he was honest, but he's
probably just playing mind games. Everything in this game's in the head, isn't it?
But
So
it was a fantastic race, and I don't know if you've seen it, but there's after the podium presentation, they do like a lap in a car, or they get taken somewhere in a car. And Marquez, Vinales, and Rins are like in the back of this like BMW car or whatever, and there's a camera, like a undercover camera, so they don't know they're being filmed. And Rins and Vinales are like absolutely buzzing, like chatting, like talking about the race, and Marquez is just sat looking out the window, looking like miserable. He's like led the full Grand Prix and then he's still second, leading the World Championship, and he's sat there like
with a sore arse.
Furious. Yeah, he was like one word answers and that.
You happy? Yes.
It just shows, he's there to win, and he's not. The other two were like, obviously Rins was buzzing because he just won the race,
yeah.
And I think Vinales was, pretty pleased. But unless Marquez is winning, he's not happy. So
well, they are. And how many times world champion?
I know, exactly.
Absolutely
and
mad, man.
also
Absolutely
we've had
mad.
a huge break from the World Superbikes. Obviously, like the summer break, 7-week break. But they've just had a test at Portimao, which is where they're racing next. Fantastic track over in down by the Algarve in Portugal. I haven't actually seen the testing times, but the sort of big news in World Superbikes at the moment is everyone's moving teams. There's Jonathan Ray is on a 2-year contract, so he's got another year with Kawasaki.
How many years has he been there now?
Long time. And then same with Chaz Davies, he's got another year left of his contract, but pretty much everyone else is up for everyone else's seats are up for grabs. Alex Lowe's has been released from Yamaha, so he's sort of floating about. There's speculation for a few teams.
He's been released, so is that been sacked?
Yeah, they're not continuing his contract from next year. I think Top Rack's looking like he's going to be going over to the Yamaha, which leaves, and I think Petrucci Kawasaki are running 2 riders, so that there's 2 seats there. Haslam's not sure whether he's staying at for the factory Kawasaki, could be possibly moving around. Bautista's signed for Honda to ride the V4, so that leaves or did leave a space at Ducati, but then Scott Redden's got that. So Scott Redden, after doing BSB this year, is going to the factory Ducati World Superbike team. So yeah, it's all
up for grabs.
Up for grabs at the moment. There's a few new.
Are you
bikes
available, Chrissy? Are you available?
There's a few.
Are you
new
available,
bikes on the
Chrissy?
grid, and I think I'm trying to think who else is. Oh, is it? No, the only other news that someone's Bridewell's just signed for the same team, the Oxford product. I know that's BSB, but that's just popped into my head. But other than that,
the tables are starting to turn. People are looking for new riders, getting things sorted and everything.
That's it, yeah. And I guess it's getting to that time of the year towards the end of the season where people are starting to get things sorted, and it's shaping up to be, an interesting grid on the World Superbikes. Like I say, a few new bikes on the grid, a few new teams. Obviously, to see Honda, and it's been a while since Honda have had like a good crack at it. So to see them,
with this new bike, looking forward to seeing this.
Yeah, exactly. So should be good. And I think there's 3 rounds left of the World Superbike Championship. So
awesome. And speaking of getting ready, are you ready for the weekend, young'un?
Yes, I cannot wait. We've got a double header down at Alton Park.
At Cheshire. The posh Forthy people.
When we've actually been recording this podcast, hopefully you won't have noticed, but we did half like last night, and then we had a bit of a technical issue, so we've like sort of merged this one together.
4 hours kip.
And I'm gonna, so as soon as we're finished recording this podcast, I'm packing myself away and heading down to Alton Park. So really excited for the weekend. We had we talked about earlier, real good test at Donington last week, so I'm feeling comfortable on the bike and good chance to get some good points, and just do my best. But I tell you what, just before we shoot, I was on Facebook just before, and I've just seen that. Do you know, I was speaking about Danny Kent earlier and like all the apparently Michael Rutter's suing him.
Shut up, man.
No, Michael Rutter's suing him for trying to steal his nickname, The Blade.
You dick. You probably had us going there. There's only one room. There's only one bit of room for a dickhead on this show, and that's me, mind. There you go. Oh my god, you generally had us going there, man. But
I think that wraps up today's show. Anyway,
hold on. Obviously, when you talk about social media and everything like that, it's really bad to hear the passing of Wilson Craig. And obviously, if you haven't heard of Wilson Craig, you haven't obviously watched Close to the Edge, because that, like, Guy Martin's race for him, he's had Cameron Donald, he's had Kiefer Moore. The lad was a seriously strong name in road racing as well as like short circuit riding, so it was really, I don't know the full ins and outs of it, but he'll be a really sad miss to the sport. He really will be. But
yeah, obviously rest in peace and thoughts with all the family, friends.
Yeah, the Craig family, yeah. And so bar that, it's Ahmed Oliver's mount the following week, so I'm hopefully...
Yes, we've just seen that got released yesterday on
FaceTube.
It's
all happening.
So racing for Counton Racing.
That's it. So obviously the Counton family, it's like all teams, and like you and me, you need the budget to go, and the family have got some strong support to go back, and they've asked me to kindly race for them again, so I'm looking forward to getting back on James's super twin there. And obviously I've only been once to Oliver's mount, so no, looking forward to going back, son. Looking forward to going back, young'un.
That's brilliant. Well, looking forward. In fact, next week I'll try and get down to watch you, so that'll be good crack.
You'll also, have to keep me calm, because I'm flapping about like a pair of beagle lugs here. I'm telling.
The next North Yorkshire night is with Steve Plater and Gary Thompson, so that should be a good night.
I'm going to that. I'll just slide.
It's either next week or the week after. I cannot remember, but we'll probably both be there. It'll be a good night, and before we go though, big thanks to the sponsors for the show:
Alaman TT Picks and Incontango
Training.
I can't say that. That's why you do it.
Incontango Training, and also the Victory Barbershop, Burnham Field. If you want to check the cuts out, go over to Facebook, Victory Barbershop, and if you're in the local area, I can thoroughly recommend.
There you are. Why don't we just start lying as well? You get 20% discount if you say Jason the Race and give a 5-star rating. Only 5 stars.
Oh yes, but well remembered, Dom. Big thanks to everyone who's been giving us the 5-star ratings on the old iTunes and
I think James Hines going to give us like a 1. Like, we'll have to delete that one.
Yeah, well, big thanks for listening, and this is officially the end of our second series, but we don't really...
So we're going to give it a couple of years out. We're going to go on a gap year. We're going to go travel India, trying out dodgy food. That gives you the shit.
I tell you what, I would love to get sorted for starting the next series, and that's to get a proper... at the beginning, how we've got the boom boom ch, boom 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 ch, like the jingle thing. I would love to get like a professional one done where like
3, 2, 1 in there. It's got to be. We have random people, all you lot, coming up the way. Separate games going 3, 2, 1. No, but lovely man, Dick. I'm going to get dickhead, but
But if we just had like maybe a 15-second compilation of just like funny one-liners and like obviously just.
If there's anyone out
listening
there
that could do that, I'll send you over the audio files, and it'll be brilliant to get that sorted.
But while we're talking all serious, so it's a bit like, obviously we get a lot of support for this, and and it's great. And if people want this to go further, seriously, get the name out there. If people want to, help out, obviously can't thank our amazing sponsors enough. But if there's someone out there that can think, right, we're just doing this in a bloody motorhome on your grass on a 44,000 degree angle. If someone out there can point us in the right direction or recommend or anything, really give this another level. Like we want to go further in our careers, Chrissy. We're going to treat this the same. Let's build this up. So if anyone knows anyone with some serious cheddar, any advice is welcome. Any advice.
Also, with this being episode 24, they're all about an hour long. If anyone's starting at the very beginning, they've got a full 24-hour period to catch up. So
that's upsetting, isn't it?
But
the thing, that's another thing. When you recommend this, you don't have to listen to the first one because it's all up to date. We're current. We're in your face. Fuck you. I've got to stop swearing. Right, that is the thing. Honestly, the thing is, Chrissy, we're gonna boot Jack Burnicle off and Jack. Whatever their faces are, we're going on the Eurosport one day, son. So no swearing. I'm going to pack in swearing. I am.
I tell you what, I would love to get Jack on here.
Oh, Jack is my hero, man. We'll get him on. We've tried to round this show up for the last 10 minutes now. Right. So anyway, we're going. Thank you for the sponsors. Bye.
Cheers, bye.